I got an email, and I've documented that, hey, they wanted me to flag any examples of right-wing extremism outside the United States. So this is something that they're actively looking for, and this goes as far as elections. They want us to flag any content regarding specific elections, even in Canada. So when in this last Canadian election with Jagmeet Singh, there was specific guidance to watch out for any hate speech content targeting candidate Jagmeet Singh with their hate speech with dehumanizing comparison. And once again, the policies are very, very nuanced, but they don't allow political speech. For example, if I say keep Canadians out of the United States, that's something that's not allowed. That's a violation of the hate speech policy tier 3 for exclusion. But we see them time and time again targeting conservatives and also giving exceptions to the policy to allow for newsworthy, what they deem as newsworthy.
Well, that's fascinating. This is the first time I've ever heard that Facebook was defending Jagmeet Singh, the leader of our socialist party called the NDP. Yes. There are a great many reasons one could criticize Jagmeet Singh that have nothing to do with his ethnicity as a Sikh. However, there are also some legitimate reasons to criticize Jagmeet Singh that do have to related to his Sikhism. Not that that's his religion, but that he supports radical Sikh groups both in India and abroad, some of which have been violent, some of which are terrorist groups. I actually think that Jagmeet Singh is banned, if I'm not mistaken, from visiting India because of his affiliation with them. So my question to you, Ryan, is how does Facebook's AI, or how would someone like you working in America be able to distinguish, oh, this critique of Jagmeet Singh is racist, we're going to ban it. This critique of Jagmeet Singh is a real policy question about whether or not he's too sympathetic to Khalistani terrorists. Like, that is such a complicated and nuanced thing, and 10 people might have 10 different opinions. You're saying you, based in, I think, Arizona, are making that call every day.
Yeah, and it's like I say, it is very nuanced. So, for example, the hate speech policy applies visually. So, if I have a meme caricature of someone wearing, clothing associated with the Islam religion, or, for example, in this example, Sikh, then simply by having an image of someone dressed like that counts as a protected characteristic. So, if there's an image of anyone, since he's wearing that wardrobe, wearing that clothing associated with Sikh, that would, so anything that's even referencing him or attacking him could be, interpreted as an attack on his religion simply because he's wearing that clothing.
The thing is, he has a turban, and I think it's quite fashionable, and I understand it's not for fashion, it's a religious thing, but I think he sort of, really focuses on colorful, it's part of his brand, I think.
Yeah.
And I personally like it, but my point is, any caricature, any cartoon, any drawing of him would have a turban because that's how he almost always is. So if you're criticizing him with any image, you're going to have a turban there. And again, I'm just thinking, well, who decides whether or not it's a mean depiction of a turban or a friendly depiction of a turban? And I can't believe that an American company is censoring what Canadians can say about a Canadian election. That's what's weird to me. You're in Arizona, and you're deciding what Canadians can or can't say about a political candidate in Canada. I mean, I don't want anyone to censor, even censor mean words, but I think it's extremely news to Canadians that you seem like a nice guy, but you're based in Arizona working for some company hired by Facebook, and you're deciding what Canadians can or can't say during our election.
Right. And Facebook gave us an election training deck, not only for the U.S., but for Canada, various countries in Europe. Of course, I wasn't working directly on content in Europe. But yeah, no, I had the same conversation with a Spanish TV station in Spanish. I speak fluent Spanish. So I was with El Toro TV yesterday. There's also some concerning content regarding Venezuela. Keep an eye out. There might be a new story coming out about Venezuela because I witnessed, direct interference from Facebook in an armed revolution in Venezuela. So if you think, that's bad, just censoring the speech. I mean, Facebook is on a global level. This is a conversation we should be having. Countries should be autonomous. Countries should be able to not have their public discourse controlled, as you say, by an American company, by some moderators in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I have no racial animus towards Jagmeet Singh or the Sikh people. In fact, I actually admire Sikhism.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't like if someone was hateful towards Sikhs, and I would probably feel personally compelled to rebut that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what should happen. It shouldn't be a censored thought crime. That's what troubles me. It doesn't trouble me that people care about hate or care about harmony. It troubles me that the censorship is being done by these impenetrable tech companies. I mean, let me ask you, when let's say you were to delete a post in Canada during the Canadian election, would there be any record of that? Would there be any communication of that? Would there be any appeal of that? Or is that just a laugh?
So I believe there is an appeal process. If you are a user on Facebook, you can appeal the decision. But it's on our end. So I would be working on looking at maybe 200 pieces of content a day, and of those, so let's say 1,000 jobs a week that I'm doing, either deleting or leaving on the platform, and I would be audited on maybe 50 of those a week. So if it wasn't audited, then they would never be raised up to anybody what I deleted or what I didn't delete. So there is a system in place, but it's not. There are things can slip through the cracks. Yeah.
If you're doing 200 a day, my rough math says that's about 2 minutes each.
Yes.
And of course, you're not having. It's not like a trial where you have a prosecutor and a defender and you're a judge. You're just glancing at something. You're judge, jury, prosecutor, executioner, the whole thing, and you seem like a fair-minded guy who obviously was concerned about it. But I want to show a clip. This is where you were talking to a senior HR business partner of Facebook, Leslie Brown. We've been talking about Sikhism and a Sikh candidate. Here's a clip of Leslie Brown talking about, well, then not quite every race or religion is equal in Facebook. Let's take a quick look at that.
But I mean, they were able to fire him without having to worry about discrimination.
Due diligence, right.
No,
yes, well, because it's a white man.
Yeah,
white man, so no problem. You can't do it that easily if there are other issues.
Oh, it's easier when they're
white men.
Okay.
Yeah, no protected class.
No one has the white man's back anymore.
You're saying because he's a white male, there's more
that if
leverage.
he chose to sue the company, that most attorneys would just laugh.
Look, every single human being has their biases, their own identities, maybe their own grudges or grievances. I'm just terrified that there are secret armies of corporate bureaucrats doing the deleting. How many people were working with you in Phoenix? Were you doing this from home or were you in a big office?
So we worked in the office, and because of the type of content we received, so we would look at pornography, also child pornography. So because of U.S. laws, we had to work in an office, and some of the material was very sensitive. But yeah, in my office in Phoenix, there were shifts around the clock, 24/7, and there was roughly, I would say, between 1,000 and 1,500 people at that office.
Did you just say 1,500?
Yes.
1,500 censors, and you were working obviously in shifts, working 24 hours a day.
Right.
Unbelievable. Did you have any interaction with the Canadian government, or was this all just you were just a contractor directly with Facebook, and that's the only boss there was?
Yeah, that's the only boss there was. One of our policy managers, who's mentioned in the video, Sean Browder, who's a very pro-Bernie supporter. He had direct contact with the client, with Facebook, so they would video conference on a daily basis. And those policies, those decisions would come from on high, from Facebook, as to what to allow, what to keep. So one of the most egregious examples that we saw during as far as our elections is in 2018. There was a kid who was a Trump supporter wearing a MAGA hat, and he was in a restaurant in Texas, and he got attacked and assaulted, and his hat got knocked off. So this was a viral video in the summer of 2018. And in the video, the adult was cursing at the minor, and so it technically violated. It's kind of a gray area, but you could argue that it violated Facebook's policies because we don't allow cursing at minors, unless anyway. So Facebook made the decision to delete this video across the platform. It was a viral video, but of course it showed a Trump supporter being victimized. And on the flip side, there was another great example that shows the converse, is that in Australia, there's a far-right senator named Fraser Anning, and he was doing a press conference and he got attacked by a minor. And so this kid walked up behind him and egged him, cracked an egg on the back of his head. And so Fraser Anning turned around and slapped the kid in the face a couple of times repeatedly, and that technically violates our child abuse policy. So we have child abuse, clear violation, but Facebook said, hey, we're making a newsworthy exception. We're going to allow this on the platform. And of course, it showed a far-right senator being humiliated, being attacked.
Huh. This is fascinating and terrifying. The fact that there's a list of 200 plus banned people, places, ideas, groups is shocking. The fact that I know a few of them and some of them will work with, I'm not surprised. I mean, we had heard Tommy's problems before. I just never heard that the list was available, but obviously someone would have had it. Can you tell us anything more about Canada? Because, I mean, obviously that's something we care about a lot based here in Canada. Other than the Jagmeet Singh protection order, was there anything that was off limits or anything you were told to boost? Did you have any other instructions about the Canadian political sphere?
I know there's some guidance in the election training deck for Canada. There was some guidance about content that was targeting immigrants with dehumanizing comparison. So, for example, if there's a picture of immigrants in Canada, and the caption on the meme, or not the meme, but the caption on the photo says, look closely at this photograph. Do these look like refugees, or are they opportunistic leeches coming to take advantage of Canadian kindness? So this would violate the hate speech policy because immigrants would be considered a protected characteristic. Excuse me. And so by calling them leeches, you're basically comparing them to an insect or a bug. So to me, that's discussing immigration issues. Right. But for Facebook, this is a violation of hate speech because you have an image of immigrants, so they're depicted in the image, and it's comparing them to opportunistic leeches taking advantage of Canadian kindness. So
it's not nice to dehumanize people, and we know that dehumanizing people by comparing them to animals is done calling people like rats or like pigs. But again, that's part of discourse. We do call, and I'm not saying that's pleasant, I'm not saying I support that, but to be a leech, to be a pig, to be a wolf in sheep's clothing, to be a bull, we use metaphors. It's interesting to me that the only metaphor being banned is one that is negative towards immigration, which is a huge issue. Are any other images or examples? So immigration is obviously something that the elites and the left supports and populists and the right oppose. Were there any other countervailing things that you couldn't say? You couldn't call a conservative a Nazi. You couldn't call a right-wing candidate a Nazi. That would be my analogy. You can't call an illegal immigrant a leech, okay? Is there anything you can't call a right-winger, or is it you can call Maxime Bernier, the head of the People's Party, for example, you can call him a Nazi, no problem?
So that's a great question. So we have what's called a bullying slang list. So there's a lot of words that are used a lot, and we want to make sure we're doing, all doing it the same way, taking action the same way. So I'm allowed to call someone a Nazi, even though technically any attack on someone's character, temperament, mentality, disposition is a delete. But they carved out an exception for any kind of ideological attack. But it's interesting. So on the one side, you can call someone a Trump humper. Like if you called me a Trump humper, Ryan, you're a Trump humper, and I reported it directly, it would still stay up. But if you were to call me a feminazi, that would be taken down. So Trump humper stays up, feminazi it gets taken down. And of
Okay,
course,
so a feminazi is a word used sometimes to criticize a feminist. But how about just
Right.
calling someone a Nazi? So, I mean, I'm Jewish myself. I hate being called a Nazi. I'm very pro-Israel. I'm very anti-Nazi, obviously.
Yeah.
I've been to the Holocaust Museum many times, etc. If someone were to call me a Nazi, not a feminazi, but a Nazi, is that kosher under Facebook's rules?
Yeah, it's going to stay up no matter what you do. There's no way to take it down. People can call you Nazi all day, and because of they may change the policy under bullying, because technically it's attacking your character, right? It's attacking who you are.
Well, it's defamatory. So you
Yeah.
can call a Jewish conservative a Nazi, and unfortunately that happens from time to time, but you can't call a leftist a feminazi. Am I understanding it? So call a conservative a Nazi, that's okay by Facebook. Call a feminist censor a feminazi, and that's taken down. Am I right?
That's correct. Yep. And another example that we have is Facebook wanted things escalated. So in the training deck for Canada, it said that if there's something that's really trending or viral going on with the election in Canada, they want that escalated. So someone from Facebook that works for Facebook would see that. They wanted us to identify any trends in viral posts that are related to the elections, including humorous and satire posts, any hate speech or bullying or harassment related to the elections, any threats to political candidates. That one makes sense. Any attempts for voter fraud and spreading misinformation around the election, and any privacy violations. And then it says, just please follow the normal procedures for escalating content in the workflow tribe. And it mentions people we should contact at Facebook for any escalations.
That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.